What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is the conclusion to Janet Jackson, the documentary on Lifetime. This is episodes 3 and 4. So listen, you guys. We picked this one up in 1990 with Janet Jackson getting her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And again, we see Renee. He's got these videotapes, this behind the scene footage. Um, she after I guess she just had a 2 record deal with A&R or A&, whatever's her original record company. So maybe she had a 4 record deal, because remember she had done the 4 albums prior to leaving Joe Jackson, and then she did Control and then Rhythm Nation. But either way, her contract was up, and it became a bidding war because of all the things she had done and what she had done. And she actually ended up signing with Virgin Records for the highest amount of money that any single artist had gotten to date, and so that was like a record. Um, um, it was about a $50 million deal, and we're talking about 1990. $50 million for a record deal is, again, it was groundbreaking. So we see that, and then of course they wanted her to go right into the studio and make a new album, but of course that's not what she did. She made Poetic Justice, and this was her first major movie. Yeah, first major movie. And they talked about, her relationship with Tupac. We see that's when she first met Q-Tip. Now, that's another relationship that they didn't really speak on. Janet and Q-Tip dated for a minute. I don't think it was real long. I think it was probably more of a friends with benefits thing. But it was after her breakup with Renee that they kind of hooked up. But that's another, they ain't really explored. So I'm going to leave it there. We're going to put a pin in it. But, Q-Tip played her boyfriend in the movie. He was in the movie about that long, but he played her boyfriend. He got to kiss her. And, of course, Renee was there. And they talk about how, and it was funny because Regina King was interviewed, because, Regina King was in the movie, and she said, her and Pop, they sort of had this chemistry. And she said, I think they really did like each other, but they didn't want nobody to know that they liked each other. Because remember, the rumors or the stories that came out of this whole Janet Jackson Tupac thing during Poetic Justice was that they just did not like each other. They clashed. That, they said that, he was sort of nasty to her, and it just wasn't good, right? But Regina seems to think there was some, I'm getting the impression that she feels like it was some sort of like sexual tension there. Maybe, if she hadn't had a boyfriend, maybe some things might have went down between her and Tupac. I don't know about that part, but and then this is the emergence of the sexier Janet, because that's what she did the video for Again. And if you guys remember, Again was one of the first times we saw this. And I mean, that's not to say Janet wasn't sexy in her all black. But remember, for a long time, that was sort of her signature thing. The Janet wore black, 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 black. And in the video for Again, she has on white. And her hair is dyed, or the extensions or the wig or whatever it was, is this blonde, this sandy blonde situation. That's actually one of my favorite looks of Janet's. That, and I think that hairdo she had in Pleasure Principle are like my 2 favorite looks. And that's saying a lot, because Janet, listen, I wanted to know who does Janet's hair. We met her stylist. But baby, whoever is her hairdresser, listen, they have earned whatever money she has ever paid them over the years times 2. Okay? Because Janet hair is always right. Always right. So then, they talked about the video and how she wanted to, she went to Tina, who we know Tina was her choreographer for a long time and a good friend of hers for a long time. How Renee, actually, that was the first video that he directed, and he directed Again, and Janet was very sexy in there, and Gary Duran used to play Shazaa on A Different World and played on CSI. He was her love interest in the movie, in the video, which of course sexy as hell. And she said that while they were filming, he asked her, do you have a boyfriend? And she was like, yeah. And he was like, well, how does your boyfriend feel about us kissing and me putting my hand down your pants and all of that? And she was like, well, He's actually the one telling you to do it. He's the director. um, but this is where you start seeing more and more of her friends talk about how controlling Renee was and how just sort of how bad things had gotten between with Renee and him controlling Janet and just being so overbearing. Um, and then we find that Renee had developed an addiction to pain pills. Now, let me go back before I get to that. This is also where we have the infamous Rolling Stone cover where Janet is topless and Renee's hands are on her breast, and that was like the thing for a long time. It was like who the hell has their hands on her breast? And I think it was very risque, and of course it got the shock value. But I think when people found out it was Renee, it was her boyfriend. I think a lot of people, well, at the time her husband, we didn't know it was her boyfriend. Yeah. But I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, it's her boyfriend. Oh, okay, no big deal. Oh, okay, you know." And right before she was getting ready to sign this groundbreaking, monumental, multi-million-dollar deal with Coca-Cola. They even had footage of her in the meeting with Coke because, again, Renee was filming everything. Literally, the day before she was supposed to sign the paperwork, the story broke about Michael Jackson being accused of the situation with the boys. And of course, she said Coke immediately pulled. I mean, Pepsi, Coke, excuse me, immediately pulled the offer. And she said, it was a whole guilt by association situation. It wasn't me. I wasn't accused, but it was my brother, and so, you know, you know. And she said, the family immediately went into, we got to be there for Michael mode. She said the family was there. We stayed in the house. I worked because I had to work, but I was there as much as I could be there to support him and support the family. And she said he eventually settled that case because he just wanted it to be over. She said, but of course, when you settle, it makes people think that you're guilty, right? And that's what a lot of people said and still say. Well, if you're not guilty, why settle it? If you're not guilty, why settle it? But again, I think sometimes people don't understand how consuming something like that is to your family and to your life and to your livelihood. It's just hanging over you. So, and he eventually ended up going on trial with another accusation later on. And so this went on for a really long time. Now, she said that they did, like I said, they ended up settling it. But in 1993, she said Michael reached out to her to do the song Scream. And it's funny because she didn't say this is me, but it's almost like, oh, so now you need me kind of thing, right? You need to revive your career. You need that Janet legitimacy. And so now you want to do a song with me. But she said they went to New York, and again, we have footage of them actually writing Scream. And she said she asked him, she said, listen, what is it that you need to say? Because, of course, she said, because I know you have a lot that you want to say, and I'll just kind of write around you. And so you saw them actually going through the process of writing the lyrics in his New York City apartment. And, she talked about, like, you could see the pain because, again, we heard the rumors that they were not getting along, that it was really hard for them filming this, doing the video and making the song in the studio and stuff like that they were both such perfectionists and they just clashed heads. But when you listen to Janet talk, I mean, you can hear the hurt. You can really hear the hurt in her voice. But she talked about the studio. I didn't really hear her say a lot about the studio sessions. Jimmy Jam said that Mike came in, he laid it. It was like great, like working in the studio with him. They said they were like kids in a candy store. But the disappointment that you heard was when they made the video. And she said that his record company, she said the video was a nightmare because, first of all, it was only supposed to be a 3-day shoot and it took forever. And it was $11 million, which was way, 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 way over budget. And she said, and I filmed during the day, he filmed at night, and his record company purposefully kept me away. Like, I wasn't allowed to film with him. And she said, I feel like that was done to create this air of competition. And she said, but that's not what I wanted. Like, I really thought this was going to be a project where we would work together like the old times. Like it were, back when we used to work together in Vegas and when we were kids. And it just wasn't the experience that I expected it to be. And it was very hurtful because I thought, this is my brother and I want to show my support because that's what this is all about. And again, she ain't say this, but what I heard was, because I ain't need this shit. He did. I didn't need to do a song with him. He needed to do a song with me. And then for the record company to sort of create this separation. Now, this is my opinion, y'all. Because she goes on to talk about, I'm making sure I'm going in order of my notes because I already got ahead of myself once before, so let me get back. She said that they met in Vegas. Michael Jackson, I didn't even know Michael Jackson had a house in Vegas, but it doesn't surprise me. And she said that she had only been to his house one time in Vegas, and they went to the house in Vegas, and it was her and her brothers, and they were meeting about going on tour. Remember when the Jackson 5 went back out on tour, the Jacksons, I should say, went back out on tour, and they really wanted Michael to do it, and Michael wouldn't do it, or I remember hearing something about that. Janet said she volunteered to be their opening act. Y'all, can y'all freaking imagine? At that time period, we're talking about 94, maybe 95, Janet Jackson being the opening act for a Jackson's tour that I'm sure Michael Jackson would get his whole, like, a separate set. Can you imagine the ticket? Can you imagine that concert? Like, that would have been probably the best concert ever. And she said, again, she blamed Michael's handlers on that never happening. And she said it was hurtful because that's just not who they were as a family. Like, all of us were coming together. It was something they could do as a family. Again, to sort of, like, rally around Michael and be there for him and be there to support him. And she's blaming the record company or his handlers for not letting that happen. I don't think we could put all the blame on other people, Janet. Now, I know you know your brother better than I do, and you knew the situation better than I do, but I just don't know if we could blame all of this on other people, But that's my opinion, y'all. That's just my opinion. Now, 1997 was the Velvet Rope Tour, and that was when people first started realizing how bad things had gotten between Janet and Renee, because he didn't go on tour. And for for Renee, who had as much control over Janet as he had, for him not to be on that tour was, like, serious. Gil, who eventually ended up becoming her creative director, the first time he was on the show, the first time he auditioned was for the Velvet Rope Tour, and he actually got, he got the job, obviously, and then at some point in the early 2000s, he became her creative director, and he's still her creative director today. And he said we became friends because on that tour, like, I could tell something wasn't right, like, something wasn't connecting. And he said, I just simply asked her one night, Janet, are you okay? And that's what started our friendship, and we've been friends ever since. After the tour and with everything going on with Michael, she went on vacation in Hawaii, and it was her, Renee, Janet, and Tina and Trina, her two dancers, and they went on tour, and they went on vacation, and she said that things just were off, in that she said, Renee and that camera, it just irritated us. Like he was always on. It was always on, and they showed a couple of video clips where Janet was getting irritated with the camera, and it's funny because you could see the difference from early on, where she tolerated it, and she even played up for the cameras. And it was one point, like when they were in Hawaii, and she saw her mother, and she was happy to see her mom, and she gave her a hug and a kiss, which of course is what you do. You give them a hug and a kiss. And he wanted her to do it again, like, oh, wait a minute, Janet, let me do it again. And she was like, no, like, I'm not gonna plan a kiss to my mom. And she was like, and don't film my mother. Don't film. And he was like, oh, come on. And she was like, no, don't film my mother. And so Tina said, eventually she found out that that's when they found out that he had this drug habit. He was addicted to pain pills. Now, y'all remember when Renee and Janet broke up? Of course, there was a lot of stuff in the paper. He came after her for money, and she talked about how hurtful that was because it made her question, is that why you were ever with me to begin with? Like, were you only with me because of money, because of my name? And, of course, he was like, well, listen, I helped. I helped Janet become Janet. Like, I was there. And do I think Janet would have still been Janet Jackson without Renee? Absolutely. But do I think that Janet helped? Do I think Renee helped Janet? Yeah, I do. I don't know I don't know if he what she owed him, but but I remember around that time, one of their former housekeepers accusing them of making her sign on like these scripts to get pain pills. It was something dealing with that. Again, I remember that she was accusing them, or she got caught up in something, and she blamed it on them. And she said, "Well, I was getting the pills for them." And now I'm thinking there's some validity to that, because at first I was like, "Girl." But if he was addicted to pain pills, listen, we know that people do some crazy stuff when they are dealing with addiction. Now, do I think that Janet had anything to do with it? Probably not. But do I believe this woman's story more than I did maybe at the time? Yeah, I kind of do. If he was addicted to pain pills. Anyway, so eventually they did, I think they said he filed for divorce. But she also talked about how he was verbally, abusive, where he would talk about her weight, and he would talk about her looks, and how, when she goes out in public, how she has to look a certain way, and and she said, I'm an emotional eater. And Janet has always talked about her weight, and she's always talked about her weight issues and her self-esteem issues. And she said, it goes back to being a kid. She said, being on the set of Good Times, I developed faster, and they would bind my breast down, bind my chest down, so I would still look flat-chested, and then, of course, being under the scrutiny of always being called, even when, being called fat. She said even Michael called her piggy and horse and stuff, and she said not in a malicious way, but just in a playful way that brothers and sisters play with each other. And it was hurtful, and so she talked about her weight issues. And then for him to basically talk about her weight and make it an issue, knowing it's something that was already, she was subconscious about, and so she spoke on that. And I think it probably went a little deeper, but I can respect the fact that she was trying to maintain and not make him look too bad, so yeah. So then so then we get to she met and started dating Jermaine Dupri. And again, life was good. She really loved him, thought they would get married and have kids and all that good stuff. And it was around the time that they were dating that 2004, the Super Bowl comes around. Now, they were together a long time. Jermaine said that they were married. They were together longer than her marriages lasted. And so they were together for a really, really long time. But they were together during the Super Bowl, and ain't no need rehashing that. Everybody know what the hell happened with the Super Bowl, child. We all know what happened with the Super Bowl, and y'all, when I look back on the controversy of the Super Bowl and compare it to what we see on TV, like think about the Super Bowl, right? And what we saw at the Super Bowl. And think about Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion's performance of WAP at the Billboard Awards this year. Or wherever that was. Like, now I'm going to be honest with y'all. I thought it at the time. I thought it was done on purpose. I thought it was done on purpose, and I thought that Janet just didn't think it would get the pushback that it got. I thought she was going for shock value. That's what I thought. And I'm going to be honest with you, after watching this documentary, it cost her a lot. I'm going to just leave it at that. It absolutely cost her a lot. We know, and what I thought was interesting was that she said that she did talk to Justin. He did call her, and she told him, stay out of it. She said, they're directing all of this at me, so there's no need for you to let your career be affected. Stay out of it. And so Justin, he got beat up for a long time about what he didn't do. But when you hear that Janet told him, stay out of it. Now, you could easily say, but he still should have said something, or he still could have said something. That part I agree with. I don't care if she told you to stay out of it or not. You could have made a statement. You could have supported her. Because again, part of the speculation was that this was done on purpose. And I feel like you could have made, or he could have made, a statement that it wasn't. That wasn't part of the rehearsal. That wasn't. And again, that happened so many years ago. He may have said something at the time, and I honestly don't remember, child. But what I do remember is that she got all of the blame, and he walked away from it, right? In hindsight, like now that I look back on it, I did not understand how much that Super Bowl cost her. Like I knew it cost her. But when you think about the high that Janet Jackson was on before that Super Bowl, and how she really has never gotten back to that place. She's made albums, she's done tours, and she is an icon. Like that's never going to change. But her next album was the first album since Control to not debut at number 1. It didn't garner the same number of hits. She's never gotten back there. And I don't know, it's like crazy when you think about it, right? I've been talking a long time. Let me hurry up. They asked why her and Jermaine broke up, and basically she was like, he cheated on me. She said, I heard he was cheating on me. Girl, you heard it, he was. But she also said that he never could get away from his music. He was a producer, he was a workaholic, he was in the studio, and she said, I just needed more time. I needed more time. Now, they were actually engaged, but she said, I needed more time. Now, we saw where Justin did reach out to her when he did the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and he wanted her to come, and she said she wasn't interested. She said she wasn't interested. She said, and, her and CBS have history. CBS was nasty. I mean, they said that she would never perform at a Super Bowl again, and they uninvited her from the Grammys that year, even though Justin was allowed to come and performed, but Janet couldn't come. And so she said that it was a lot. It was a lot. So they broke up, child. And they talked about her doing Why Did I Get Married, and why did I get married too, Tyler Perry said that a lot of people didn't really want to work with her around that time because of the Super Bowl, but he was like, I don't care. It was a nipple. Like, it is not that serious. And of course, while she was filming Why Did I Get Married Too is when Michael Jackson died. And of course, she went through the heartbreak of that. She said the last time she saw him was at their parents' birthday party. I mean, a party for their parents. And the last thing she said to him was, I love you. And that's a good way to have a final memory. Like, the pain never goes away. You never stop missing them. I mean, I've lost a brother, and I know that never ends. But to know that your last words to them was that I love you, I mean, you can't really plan it much better than that. They talked about her having her baby. She was going on tour, and we talked about that on my live earlier. And she got pregnant at 49, had her son at 50. And everybody says how great of a mother she is. And she talked about how hard it was. She took fertility drugs. She flew around the world to different doctors to get the treatments. And she said, but she wouldn't change it for anything. And it was worth every minute of it. She don't talk about her husband, no. She does not talk about her ex-husband in any way, shape, or form. They don't even mention that man's name. I said, damn. So, for whatever reason, she is not speaking on him at all. I mean, we didn't even get a picture of the two of them together. I said, damn. And I didn't expect to see his son. The closest we saw her son's hand. But I didn't expect to see him. And then we see where Joe Jackson died, which, and he had cancer. And I forgot that I think I forgot that I knew he was gone. And then we see that Janet Jackson had been overlooked for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the last 5 or 6 years, again, because of the Super Bowl. And eventually her getting into the Hall of Fame last year, being inducted last year. And, just talking about joining her brothers and, basically reaching that goal and finally getting to that milestone. And that was pretty much where it ended, you guys. We know that she's got some new music coming. Not sure she's going back on tour because they talked about how hard it would be for her to be back on tour at 50 as a mom. And she said, if people criticize me and say I've lost a step, I'm going to say you're right because I'm a mother and I can't be in the rehearsal as long as I normally would. And I can't work like I used to work because I'm a mom. She said, and I will wear that proudly. If I lose a step because I'm a mom, or I'm not the person I was because I'm a mom, then I am here for it. And I wear that. She said, I wear that badge proudly. And I said, I know that's right, Janet. You better let them know. But I did not expect this to be almost a 30-minute review, which I know I love my Janet girl. And it was a great documentary. I can appreciate that Janet opened up as much as she did because like Reby said, she is a very private person. She said more private than y'all even know. So I think we will never know it all. And I can see that she definitely put parameters on what she was willing to talk about. But what she shared, I was here for it. And I got something out of it. So that's all you can ask for. All right, I'm out. Peace.